This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You can find out everything you need to know about this show, what we do, where we've been, where we're going to, and where you can find us at www.xzoneradiotv.com or on our main network, xzbn.net. This has been a very damaging day for people who actually believe that it was a missile that hit the Pentagon. FBI files were opened today and photographs of aircraft debris identifying the aircraft that actually flew into the Pentagon. So to all you conspiracy theorists, sorry, after all this time, you've been shot down by the FBI. And speaking about the FBI, my guest this hour is a former FBI agent. His name is John DeSouza. He's known as X-Man. He was an FBI special agent for over 20 years and collected the real-life X-Files. John unravels mysteries that elude investigators restricted to the purely material world. The truth of the paranormal revealed itself to the author through his own supernatural experiences and those of innumerable others across many professional fields. Joining us now is the X-Man himself, John DeSouza. And John, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. Wow, it is great to be with you here, with your X-Zone audience here. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, like you said, I'm John DeSouza. I was an FBI special agent for over 20 years. During that time, I collected the real-life X-Files, which I share with people in my books, like the Para Investigators, and also the Extra Dimensionals, which I have out right now.
So what's your origin in the paranormal with the FBI?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I put that in my first book, the Para Investigators. It was basically an event of the paranormal that was massive, overwhelming, and affected many people across the United States of America. We had of course, and it goes back to what you were just talking about 9/11, the 9/11 terrorist event. What happened was, and this affected many people in law enforcement, there was an incident called the Indigo Kids of 9/11. And all that was little kids, young kids, as young as 4 years old, going up all the way to 11 years old, all across the country, all across the United States. And for all I know, this could have been happening in Canada also. Sure. But there were kids all over the United States who were reported as having visions and precognitions, dreams, events, like supernatural events, warning of the 9/11 events. And that occurred all over, and they had to be investigated by FBI agents and by officers that worked in these task forces as well, these terrorism task forces. And I can give you, there's all kinds of examples. We had a little boy, for instance, he was finger painting, doing arts and crafts in his class. And teacher comes over, sees him, and says, "Oh, wow, this is a very beautiful two buildings that you built there, and they're glowing really nicely. And these wonderful, looks like these angels with red wings are just flying away from the buildings. Where are they flying to? And the little boy would say to the teacher, those buildings aren't glowing. Those buildings are on fire. And those are not angels with wings. Those are people on fire jumping out of the buildings. So the teacher would look at something like that, chalk it up to too much sugar. But when the 9/11 attacks happened, there was this big see anything, say something campaign. Anything at all, no matter how silly it may seem, should be reported. So a lot of teachers and babysitters and caretakers, school bus drivers, reported these incidences. They reported these in to the FBI and to task forces, these terrorism task forces, for them to, and they had to be investigated. There was another little girl who was on a playground. She was by herself instead of playing with other kids. She's just sitting there, kind of looking down and making designs on the floor. And a teacher comes over to say, "Are you okay?" And the very young girl says, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm just thinking." The teacher goes to walk away from her, and she grabs the teacher's skirt and pulls on it violently and begs her, "Tomorrow, make sure you stay away from tall buildings, please, because tall buildings sometimes fall down, and they can fall down on people."
All right, John, stand by. We've got to take our first break. Fascinating information. X-Zone Nation, John DeSouza is our special guest this hour. And if you'd like to find out more about John, visit his website, www.johnthamabooks.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. John DeSouza and I return after this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology and much more. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, And of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Exonation, John DeSouza is our special guest. His website is johnthamabooks.com. He's a former FBI agent who used to investigate the real X-Files material. And John, thanks very much for joining us. And before we went to the break, we were talking about some of the children who had premonitions, or who are called the Indigo Children of 9/11, that were actually investigated by members of the Bureau after the attacks.
Yeah, and for instance, there was another little boy who had apparently not gotten any sleep for one night and woke up on his school bus. He was being taken to school on his school bus, had fallen asleep and woke up screaming about people being on fire in a building and jumping out of a building. And this very small child. And so that was just yelling out about this building collapsing on top of people. And so that was reported later by a school bus driver. So you had all these caretakers reporting these incidences, and these law enforcement officers with guns on them, and no matter how silly they may have felt, they had to go with these interviews had to be done. There was a policy of 100% coverage. There was no discretion on this. They had to be talked to, and their parents as well, and it's only for the possibility of any connection to terrorism of those families. And in these cases, every single one of these cases of the 9/11, the Indigo kids of 9/11, every single case came back with no ties to terrorism whatsoever. And they were all closed out, basically.
Let me ask you a question here, because you were a member of the FBI. You did investigate aspects of the 9/11 events. How do you feel about all the different conspiracy theories that are out there that, it was a black ops operation, the federal government knew? What's your take on this, having been an active member of the FBI?
I always say I really feel like people give far too much credit to the federal government. It's not just national government, not just of the United States,
sure,
of Canada, of any country. The national governments, they give them far too much credit. I personally, from what I've seen, I just feel like the national governments in a lot of these incidences, they just follow orders.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I don't really believe they know why they're following certain orders and why they're doing certain things. And I believe that they just follow what they're told to do, because I feel like there's another structure that is overlaying the national government, say global government structure that gives them instructions and tells them which way to march.
So are you giving credibility and credence to the New World Order?
Well, I don't like to call it that. I call it EPIC, the elite powers in control, EPIC. I like to, there's certain words that you use, that if you use the word, if you use initials N.W.O, or you use the I word, I think it really marks you for these crawlers on the net that go looking for people who use certain terms, and kind of marks them as conspiracy theorists. So I try to use different language, but yeah, it's essentially the same thing as what you're saying, Rob.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So do you believe that there was another cause of the 9/11 terrorist attack other than a group of terrorists, Islamic-based terrorists, who flew these jets into the buildings, and that the buildings fell down based on the attacks?
Yeah, I believe that there's a strong possibility that there were outside forces that had a very strong hand in what went on. After looking at everything that went on, all the investigation and everything that was very nicely put together, almost put together in a contrite sort of manner. I really believe my final conclusion is that there were outside forces that were probably using what we know as next generation breakaway technology in that event. Breakaway technology. That's what I see, because I see very strong clues of technology that was used, perhaps to direct those planes, perhaps to create some kind of explosive atmosphere inside that left residue behind of technology that the nations don't have and that nations don't use.
The key word here is you suspect. Have you seen any
Yes.
evidence to substantiate your suspicions?
What I see is clues. When you say evidence, there are sometimes clues that kind of match up with each other, and that don't fit the paradigm that is being put forward by the national government, and they don't quite fit into that. But then when you actually place these clues one on top of the other and match them up, they seem to belong somewhere else. So if you're asking me about hard evidence, well, who's going to provide that hard evidence? It's going to be the national authorities that are working these investigations.
Well, with all the whistleblowers that are out there, I'm sure that if there was anything nefarious behind the 9/11 attacks, that it had nothing to do with the Islam or any of the splinter groups of Al-Qaeda that were going on back then. And don't forget, this was the second attack and the successful attack on the World Trade Center, that hackers in Russia, China, and even whistleblowers within the NSA like Edward Snowden would have brought these to the forefront, and this would have destroyed the credibility of the existing government. And yet, up to date, nobody's done that.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, which means they don't know. So,
the other side of the coin, there is no evidence.
It could be. Yeah. There's a possibility of that, of course. But but I'm certainly not. I certainly am not saying that there was not involvement from radical Islamic elements that we see involved in this particular term. But there's a lot of moving. They definitely had a part in that, and they played their role very well.
All right, I just wanted to get your take on that, because the FBI released those photos today that it show the debris of the aircraft that so many people said an aircraft never crashed into the building. The hole is too small, this, that, and the other thing. Anyway, the FBI released the photos. The photos are online for everybody to see. And let's get on to the paranormal aspect of you, the X-Man. Is there a connection between you being the FBI X-Man and the X-Files movie or TV show?
Oh yeah, the X-Files television show was a great favorite of mine during the 90s, and there was a minor scandal that went on with the show that involved the creator, Chris Carter, of the show. There were several higher-ups in the FBI that it became very apparent to them that he was getting real information on real things that happened, and he was putting them into the episodes of his shows. And also, FBI procedure was amazingly accurate. So for that reason, some higher-ups at the FBI became alarmed. I was actually questioned on whether I had any contact with Chris Carter. I was able to say no, I didn't have any contact with him, but The rumors of my questioning got out at the FBI, and I was told, and after that, I was given the nickname the X-Man. I was told that I was demoted from G-Man to X-Man because of my connection with the X-Files. And Chris Carter was questioned himself. He actually talks about this today, the creator of the X-Files. He says that he really thought they were going to shut down his show because they were saying that he was revealing too many things, true things in his show that were possibly coming from FBI files.
Is that why the show was shot in Canada?
I believe it's part of the reason, yeah. That may have been a big part of the reason. But he was able to convince them that he wasn't getting any inside sorts of information, and they left him alone. But he talks about this today, and he says he really was convinced they were going to shut him down at that point.
In your first book, The Para Investigators, can you tell us some of the true para investigator stories that you have in there?
Oh yeah, I can tell you several. The Indigo Kids of 9/11, of course, is one of the first ones. But there's another one about a story called The Death by a Broken Heart. It's the story of a security guard, Richard Jewell, he's one of these guys, these supernaturally gifted investigators that I talk about in my book, The Para Investigators. He was an individual that in Atlanta, Georgia, we had Olympic events that were going on.
Yeah.
And one night he, and everybody knows this story more or less. One night he came across. It was a very busy night in the Olympic Village. There were athletes. It was way after the events. It was like almost 1 o'clock in the morning, but the place was still packed with people, thousands of people streaming back and forth through Olympic Village in Atlanta, Georgia. And he found one of these giant hiking packs. It was about 5 feet tall. One of these things where you put everything you own on your back. It's this huge, giant hiking pack. It was just sitting in the middle of a walking path. And on this particular night, he became instead of just a regular security guard, he became the greatest investigator in the world, because instead of just hauling the thing into Lost and Found or over to a supervisor, he didn't touch it. He put up police tape and barriers around it. And he started yelling at people to please get out of the perimeter, get out of the way. Don't get away from this thing. People weren't listening to him. So he started shouting at them, yelling at them, getting a little desperate, using his body, and he started really screaming at them. And people have this on film. He was screaming at them, gesticulating, get out of the area. This thing could be a bomb, suspicious package, get out of here. Anyway, he was finally able to convince enough people to move away from this thing, and then it exploded. And it barely caused any injury at all because of what he did. He probably saved dozens of lives that day.
Real.
However, as investigators started looking at these, investigators on the ground started looking at these tapes of him yelling at people and getting upset and kind of getting hysterical, it became apparent to them, same thing that became apparent to me, which was that he knew it was a bomb, and he did. Now, the question was, how did he know it was a bomb? Well, investigators on the ground concluded the only way he could know it was a bomb was because he planted the bomb, trying to be a hero. So that was the narrative that went out, unfortunately, in the media and across newspapers across the country. And for 88 days, his life was ruined. Instead of being rewarded like the hero that he was punished. And this narrative that he was a wannabe hero and that he planted this bomb went all over the world. Right. And his life was essentially ruined. At the end of 88 days, the government did something I'd never seen them do before. The United States government, they came forward and they apologized to Richard Jewell. They said he is not the bomber. He is not at all. And of course, a very short time later, Eric Robert Rudolph was confessed to being the Olympic Park bomber.
If I'm not mistaken, video footage of that package and that area, surveillance video footage, was sent to NASA. And it was actually NASA using new technology that they actually made for that purpose, was able to help the FBI in the identification of the true suspect.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But at the time that I was becoming aware of the investigation, it was being kept very strictly to those FBI agents on the ground, and they were not wanting outside help because they figured it out all on their own, they thought. And it was very sad because they could not reach the proper conclusion because they could not look outside the material world.
John, stand by. I've got to take my news at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Don DeSouza is our special guest. His website is www.johntambabooks.com. And we'll be back. Whatever you do, don't go away. You're listening to the X-Zone radio show around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Radio X throughout Europe, and on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
Welcome back. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Check us out online on all the social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, on Facebook, X-Zone Radio TV, and xzbn.net. Our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com, and our network website, xzbn.net. Talking about the paranormal with the X-Man himself, former FBI agent John DeSouza. He's the author of a number of books. His first book, The Para Investigators. John, always great talking to someone who has dedicated and served the people like you have. So I'd like to thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. That's very kind of you.
Okay, we've talked about two of the stories. We talked about the stories about the Indigo children. We talked about the story about the security guard who was wrongly pointed at as the person who placed the bomb during the Atlanta Olympics. Can you give us one more story?
Yes, and just to finish the one about the security guard, he actually remote viewed inside that hiking bag because he was, and that is how he saw, and that's why he knew it was a bomb. But like I said, materialist investigators can never come to that conclusion. They just can't accept it. But he himself later said that he did have an awareness. He came to an awareness that there was a bomb inside without ever touching the bag, without ever looking inside, because he was on camera the whole time.
So how do you know that he remote viewed?
Because it is the only possibility left to us to get to that knowingness, that we know that he was aware that it was a bomb in there. Well, since we have him on camera the entire time, and he never actually touched the package or opened it up or looked inside physically. So that only leaves the two possibilities: that he did plant the bomb, which we found out he did not,
right,
or he somehow supernaturally saw inside that package to know it was a bomb.
But what about that gut feeling cops get all the time? You know, I was a cop. I used to get that gut feeling all the time. You don't know what it is, and I've never put it to anything except intuition. I've never said that, it was remote viewing. So did he actually come out and say, I knew there was a bomb in that bag because I remote viewed it?
No, and I don't blame him for not saying that. He wouldn't go that far.
I see.
All he did, as far as he would go, is say that I had a knowingness. I was given the knowledge that there was a bomb inside there. And by this time, you have to understand, his life had been ruined, basically, for 88 days with these worldwide accusations that he was the bomber. And actually, it broke his health. His health was broken after that, and he died a short time after, at the age of 44, a very young age. He died. It was very tragic. So I do not blame him for not, he had been persecuted so much just for the little bit of service that he did give in saving all these people's lives. So he never came out and said, I remote viewed. That is my conclusion based on what I saw. Yeah. And I'll give you, and if I have the time, I can give you another story based on what you just said. When you have a gut feeling, an intuition as a police officer, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And when you become a law enforcement, I learned this from working with other law enforcement cops, is that one of the things they teach you is to, at police academy, and also when you're put with older veterans, I'm sure it's probably an experience that you went through also when you were on the force, is that they tell you to listen to your intuition, but be careful with your language after the fact, because you have to say things in a proper way for them to be acceptable in a sort of a court atmosphere, in an evidentiary sort of atmosphere. So you can actually say things now. At least things have developed to the point where you can actually use the words gut feeling, intuition, but then you have to.
Yeah, we used to use reasonable and probable grounds.
Right, but to underpin those reasonable, and in the FBI they say reasonable cause,
right,
reasonable and probable, and and that's fine, but you've got to be able to pin it on something real. And I can tell you, I've got so many stories here, but let me just tell you, Red Jacket. real quick. Story you may have very well heard it because it's been going around in law enforcement for many years. The Red Jacket story is basically the story of Red Shirt story. It's the story of an officer who is rolling along, and he's rolling along up on a scene where known drug trafficking is happening on this one corner. Bunch of young men there, very young men there doing some sort of drug trafficking with each other, and this person stops their car short of, because there's some kind of operation going on against to scoop up a lot of these drug dealers. Anyway, so this person who's rolling up on the scene, they stop their vehicle, and this person's by themselves. They stop this officer by himself. He stopped his vehicle very well short of the crowd, the knot of people on this street corner, and stops the car, gets out of the car, and looks towards these individuals on this street corner, and they look back at him, and they take off running, all of them, and all in different directions. And so he's well far back, but he just barely sees who they are running, and he radios out to everybody on all the different corners all around the perimeter, radios out, get him, the one in the red shirt, he's got a gun. Get him, he's got a gun. And this individual is picked off by someone around the perimeter. They get him, they go through his effects, and he actually did have a gun, but it was deep inside one of these baggy pants pockets, and they were able to pull the gun out. And of course, later on, it came out that this gun had been used in several violent acts in the very recent past, including a murder. So they had this person for that. But now the questions from his compatriots came, how did you know that he had a gun deep in his pocket? You could not have seen it. How could you have known it was a red shirt guy who had the gun out of all these individuals that ran in all directions? Because now this had to be papered up. It had to be
written up,
made good for court to go forward. So basically, the officer made a mistake at first. He said I just knew. I just had a feeling. And of course, we know that's not good enough. You can't actually say that. So that person was taken by an older officer, sergeant, and they were educated on what they can say and what they can do in order to justify that they knew that that person had a red shirt on and that person had a gun. And they came back later and actually said they were able to get information that there was going to be an individual that had a gun, and they gave the proper terminology. There were a reasonable cause, probable cause, was built by information that I had telling me that someone would have a gun in this crowd and that it was probably going to be the person with the red shirt. So in other words, they were educated on the right things to say, because you can't just say, I just knew, I just had a feeling. It's not good enough for police work. So that's another typical story that goes around all of especially on the East Coast in law enforcement, that's known by many.
How does your new book, The Extra Dimensionals, differ from your first book, The Para Investigators?
Well, The Extra Dimensionals talks about what it is about all the different alien visitor cases, the extra dimensionals, true tales and concepts of alien visitors. It's basically the culmination of all the study that I've done in the last 20 years of very, very well-known cases and some new cases of alien visitation, alien abductions, alien contact cases, and even just alien observation cases that have come down through the years, and just taking it from the approach of a pure investigator. Because, as you know, most people in the paranormal tend to be former scientists, former journalists, and analyst type people. I don't see too many people like yourself and myself, Rob, that are former law enforcement people, that just purely investigators.
Well, actually, I'd just like to interject here. There are a number of organizations now of paranormal investigators that are strictly policemen.
Oh, I need to join that.
Okay, Larry.
I love the sound of that.
Larry Lawrence is a detective in Fellsmere, Florida. He runs an organization called the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. And he has deputy sheriffs. He has other members of different law enforcement agencies. And he's connected to law enforcement agencies right across the United States law enforcement agents right across the United States who investigate the paranormal.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I listen to somebody like a Butch Witowski, who's a former state trooper out of Pennsylvania, or the gentleman who does 411 Missing, who is the officer, the former police detective, who does David Paulides, who does all the missing cases out of national parks. I mean, there's an element that these guys have that I don't hear in other places. And I think what it is they do an examination of the nature of things.
Well, there's a certain way to investigate. There's a certain way to collect evidence. There's a certain way how to interview people, and this comes with the training and the not only from the academy, but also the amount of years that you've been on the street, meeting with people, interacting with people, and getting street smart. And Butch, I know Butch very well. He's been on the show a number of times, and
he's awesome.
I agree with you. And it's when I see these wannabes, for a lack of better words, who call themselves paranormal investigators, who have no idea how a true investigation is even. They see it on TV, one of these so-called reality TV shows, and away they go. They want to become paranormal investigators or ghost hunters. And I love ghost hunters because I say, well, how can you kill something that's already dead?
That's good. Yeah, that's why I when I'm talking to these paranormal investigators, I always ask them, please just get the free sample of the first 50 pages of my book, The Para Investigators, because the first 50 pages is free. It's free on my Facebook, also free on Amazon, and you can just to get a primer on what basic investigation is, what it involves, and what it really means, because it doesn't mean what we've been taught by television, unfortunately.
No.
Television has taught us this CSI mindset, and we think that investigation means just like some lab coats coming and getting residue and getting things they can put in test tubes and all of this, and it's just nothing can be further from the truth. Investigation is so much more.
And usually a crime isn't solved within an hour that is filled with commercials either. Listen, John, you and I have to take our final break. Please stand by. Exonation John DeSouza is our guest this hour. Once again, his website is johnthamabooks.com. You can find him on Facebook as well, John DeSouza Media Group. And John and I will be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, 26 years strong. Don't go away. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything? Movies. From new releases to old classics. TV shows. Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back, everyone. John DeSouza is our guest. His latest book is called The Extra Dimensionals, and you can find out all about John on his website at johntemmabooks.com. So, in your opinion, John, are UFOs real?
Yes, they are. However, I have to condition that, Stanton Friedman has a great saying. He says that I like very much. He says, so what if 95% of UFO cases are either fraud or insufficient information or just outright not true? That has nothing to do with me, because all I care about is the 5% or less of UFO cases every year that actually are unexplainable and possibly extraterrestrial.
But how can we take Stanton Friedman's word when he himself has never seen a UFO? He has no investigative experience. He is basically a storyteller who just happened to come across something 20 years after it happened.
Ah, that's a good point. But I do love that saying, because when people come up to me and they say, do you really believe in UFOs? What they're not really talking about that small percentage of genuinely unexplainable cases. They're talking about the 96% of cases that are not real, that are provably not true. And so that really is that's not what I deal with. It's not what I'm focused on.
So what is the difference between the 5% that you deal with and the yet to be discovered causes that may show that these 5% are actually experimental aircraft or yet to be disclosed to the public type of new weapon system?
Oh, the difference is authenticity.
Okay.
Authenticity of witnesses, of the situations, and corroboration, proof that's backing up these incidences.
Give me an example.
When I talk about the Betty and Barney Hill case in 1961, the original abduction case, what I see in that case is I see witnesses that appear very credible to me in what they're saying, and even what was produced after the hypnosis.
Yeah, but hypnosis, as you know, as a former law enforcement agency, can be misconstrued, or the person under hypnosis can be directed by the person giving the hypnosis direction, in charge of the case, to give them the answers they want. For example, Bud Hopkins' girlfriend, live-in wife, told us that it's all a hoax. That hypnosis doesn't work. It was just a bunch of bunk.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll always have that in any of these cases. There's always going to be contradiction, and there's going to be complaints about whether something is a hoax or not. That'll always be the case. But when you look at the witnesses themselves, one of the real giveaways is when people maintain the absolute veracity of everything they have said from the beginning of the experience, however many years ago it was, right up until the day they die, without deviation, without backstep whatsoever. That's one of the strongest clues that they were absolutely authentic in everything that they said. And the interviews of Betty and Barney Hill, anyone who believes that their stuff was a hoax, I would challenge them just to go look at their interviews, which are still available today.
Yeah, I have a copy of them here. I have a copy of them here, and I don't believe that case one bit.
Yeah.
Because there's a few things that make no sense. The dress that apparently was soiled, she never produced. Betty never produced the dress that she was wearing that she claimed in interviews that was soiled. Why didn't she produce it? Why did she send it to a dry cleaner instead of having it analyzed as proof if she was so convinced? And then we know that Barney himself had a flair for science fiction.
Well, the dress I would explain as simply, during the early portion of after the experiences happened, they had no desire to prove anything to anyone or even come out with their experience or become notorious for this experience. She would have had no stake in sending that dress to someone who.
Then why did they come out? Why did they go public?
Oh, they were finally convinced.
By who?
Oh, that's something that was an involving process that went on for a long time. It took quite a bit of convincing to get them to finally come forward with their experiences, because people close to them could see that psychologically they had been very strongly affected by what.
And wasn't it a UFO group that finally convinced them to come forward?
I'm sure it was.
So if you don't,
there's always those types of groups.
If you don't want that fame, if you don't want that attention, why would you do it unless there was something in it for yourself? What's the motive?
Therapeutic, good health. That's what I believe it was. Because if you see the interviews with them, you see that these are painful experiences for them, difficult experiences, and that they were not enjoying coming out with this testimony. They were not enjoying the notoriety or the celebrity that they did. Little celebrity.
Did they seek psychiatric help?
Oh, I'm not aware. I don't know if they did or not.
But they did seek a hypnotherapy.
Yes, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you go to see a credible professional? Why would you go under hypnosis?
Aren't there many? There are many psychiatrists and psychologists that are hypnotherapists themselves.
But this hypnotherapist was referred to them by a UFO group.
Yes, yes. I myself would not go to a psychiatrist, so I can't
Why not?
ask anybody else to do that.
Why not? Would you rather go to a hypnosis?
I think I would, yes.
I
Because they
wouldn't.
could help me in some therapeutic manner. They could help me with mental health, and I don't really see the same from a psychologist or psychiatrist. That's just my personal.
Well, wait a minute. How can you say that a person who does hypnosis can help you with mental health when they're not licensed to do such?
Well, who would license them then? Or you're saying that there is no license for?
You can be you can be a licensed hypnotherapist, but you can't be I've never heard of a hypnotist who does mental health who isn't licensed.
No, I said it would have a positive effect on mental health if a person is going through some therapy to remove screen memories and to help them with things they want to need to come to terms with. That's how I see it.
Okay, but how do we know that these hypnosis sessions were of what the real events were that happened? For example, in any of the literature that you've read that has been published, was it ever mentioned that Barney Hill was carrying a firearm?
Well, I did see that in much of the literature.
Okay, so here's my question.
He was carrying a gun. It was there was a time when he was thinking of using the gun, but then the thought popped into his head from outside, you better not do that. You should not use that gun.
Here's my question. Here's where I'm going with this. According to the story, they were on their way back from Montreal. They had crossed the Canadian border into New Hampshire. You can't bring a firearm into Canada.
Okay. So he was committing an illegal act, is what you're saying.
And if he was committing an illegal act, there goes his credibility.
Yeah, like I said, the best thing to do on that is, as far as his credibility, is for people to go see the interviews directly for themselves and decide on credibility with that element.
But don't you agree that anybody who goes to read the interviews of Barney Hill, or even of Jesse Marcel of the Roswell fiasco, or Kenneth Arnold, or whoever, that if they're a believer in UFOs, they will read into it what they want. If somebody who does, wait a sec. And if you're not a believer, you will not see what the believer believes in. So where do you draw the line between fact and fiction?
Well, there is no line, because what you just said is true for all human beings in all situations. Everyone will read in what they already have in their mind. Facts and logic and truth don't really have the greatest effect on our perspective. Or what has the greatest effect is what's already in our mind. If we want to disbelieve, we are going to disbelieve no matter what. And if we are open to paranormal possibilities, then we will be open to those possibilities.
I want to believe, but I want to see the proof. I want to see proof. I don't want to see supposition. I don't want to see second-hand information, third-hand.
How did you feel about the star chart that was produced by Betty Hill? It was later proven to be accurate by planets and system, and by astronomers later that found it to be completely accurate.
I want to know what happened prior to her doing that chart. How long after the event was it? I look at the whole picture. I just don't look at little slices. Like, I want to know how long and what the chain of events were from the time this happened, from the time of the alleged abduction to the time when that star chart was written. That is a very important fact, because you don't know. I don't know. I'm sure somebody does know. Maybe Kevin Randall knows. But that timeline, is it possible that she did research, that she actually went to a library, checked it out? We don't know. So just to use that star chart as a sliver of making the piece fit into the timeline, to me that doesn't work.
Sure, that is a sliver, but they're all slivers that come together to make up the entire picture.
Listen, you and I have got to say so long for tonight. This has been great. Thank you very much for joining us. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about John, his website is, just a second here, I'll get that. I had it over here. It is www.johntemmabooks.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.